Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to Interiors. I hope you've had a nice day. I would like to introduce you to a fabulous designer and a good friend of mine, Shaun Clarkson. Shaun has done something quite strange in the current climate. He has become a retailer. First, just want to really tell you a little bit about who he is. Shaun has been designing bars, clubs, hotels, restaurants for a long time, over 20 years. Started when he was very, very young. Places like the Raw Club and Atlantic in London really put Shaun on the map, and he's been around ever since, opening venues all over London for some fantastic clients. You will at some point, I'm sure, if you've been in and around London, you will have either eaten or drank or danced in one of Shaun's venues. Shaun's style isn't quiet by any means. It's pretty full-on, flamboyant, lots of colour, and you'll see from some of the slides I'm going to show you now, he started in the late night business, but in recent years has become a bit more daytime, a bit more food-led, and the designs probably become a bit more sophisticated. Hello, Shaun.
Hi, Andy.
How's the interior show so far?
Really good, really good. Actually, I've been coming for 5 years, so I can see it gets better every year.
Good. Some of Shaun's venues from way back, the Atlantic Bar, which is sadly no longer with us. Tell us about this venue, Shaun.
Well, this was a client that I've been working for, doing his club brand called the Raw Club for about 5 years, which is kind of a pop-up club concept where we used to refurbish it every 6 months, and we had quite a limited budget, but it was always a good learning curve. It was the first job I ever had, and then he suddenly, through the fact that he was opening this quite momentously sized restaurant bar and function rooms, which is called the Atlantic. This was the main bar and dining room. It's at a 150-seater restaurant, and after doing sort of quite modest budgets, we suddenly had quite a huge budget to do this amazing place. And it was seminal, really, and it changed the way people went out in London. If in the old days you used to have to either go to a wine bar or a nightclub after a certain time, and your choice was pubs, wine bars, nightclubs, in that order. And there was you went nowhere then you could go late night drinking, and Oliver Payton, who opened this in 91, kind of changed, 95, kind of changed the way we thought about drinking, really. You could go here and have a fantastic cocktail without eating and without having impossibly loud music. So it was amazing.
Next venue we're going to look at is 101 in London, which is on Tottenham Court Road. Interesting use of vinyl here, Shaun.
Yes. This was a bit of a challenge. It was a client that I've done a lot of work for over the last 20 years, and I'm still working for him now. He has this bar, and interestingly enough, we're just about to refurbish it again. This was done about 7 years ago. But he had a problem. There were drug abusers on the other side of the glass there. So people were having a nice drink and looking out the window, seeing someone shooting up. So we had to solve the problem in a listed building. So we used this vinyl print that we produced. We produced the pattern ourselves to create this giant 2-story light box, which was semi-translucent, so you could see the buses, but you couldn't see the drug addicts.
What a lovely story. Next up, electric birdcage. I can't really describe this, Shaun. You better go for it.
Well, this is the result of a client not giving you a restriction on the brief. He just said, do what you want. So we automatically said, well, we need to shop in Bali to get all the furniture. And I managed to wangle a 10-day stay in Bali, staying at the Como Shambhala State Hotel at the client's expense. I hope there's no clients in my side. I don't normally do that. And then he had the name Electric Birdcage, so we made this completely surreal fantasy world, you know. It was based in an old bank, so we kind of painted the stucco ceilings, which are original stucco ceilings, in fluorescent pink, and then we built a bar in the shape of a merry-go-round, and then this Fibonacci pattern floor is meant to echo the original bank building. But there's not a picture of it, but this floor sort of emanates from the bar and then goes into a back bar, which was like the club area, and then wraps the walls double height. So it was quite a dramatic statement. Sadly, it's a Byron now, but I'm always quite relieved when they've been there for more than 5 years. They start looking a bit tatty. It's time for them to go.
Most places are a Byron now, though.
I know.
So next, this is quite recent, and I think you can see a bit of a change in style. Profile Diner is in a very dark street. It's on Wardour Street in Soho, and it doesn't get any sunshine. It gets very little natural light, but it's always sunny in here, isn't it, Shaun?
Well, yes, this is a typical sort of brief you have from a client, is they all say, I want an all-day operation. I want to operate from like sort of 6 in the morning till 6 the following morning, and without even being able to have to clean the place. This is actually an all-day operation. It feeds a nightclub that we did in the basement, so actually it closes around midnight, and then the club opens. And it's for a gay brand called Profile. So they wanted something that felt sort of slightly fresh and light and great during the day, but also in the evening that turns into a bit of a cruising cocktail bar, hence the island bar, so everyone can see each other around it. And this has been very successful. They do serve breakfast, lunch and dinner, and it has definitely improved their club business below as well.
The Moose, sadly, no longer with us.
Well, it is actually, but it's slightly different.
It's not called
Moose
the Moose.
2.
Okay. Shaun, tell us about this. You did quite a lot of original work for this with wallpapers and cowboy prints and stuff. Where did the inspiration come from?
Well, this is right next door to Selfridges, and my client was very keen to get the Selfridges crowd, the shoppers and also the shop assistants. So we kind of had this idea of turning it into a bit of a quirky shop-type space. So, he had a name again, the Moose. So we created this sort of like fantasy landscape, which is, I think, what I do best. Really, is create fantasy landscapes for people to lose themselves in. And we wood-clad the walls and created these sort of murals and painted all the pub furniture yellow, as you can see. But quite successfully. It was a very successful bar for about 6 years before we sold it.
Odette's, the most romantic restaurant in London.
Yes.
Interesting awning. You printed that.
Yeah, again, this is another sort of other end of the spectrum, really, but we had a hard act to follow. Odette's has been around since 1971 and was dubbed, like, year in, year out, the most romantic restaurant in the country, and it was all covered in mirrors and dirty carpets and full of rats when we took it over. So it had to be different, I think, although they wanted to keep the name, and we did quite a different treatment. We gave it a sort of modern Californian look, I guess. Again, bespoke carpets, wallpapers and furniture, which is what we do best, and then the awning is a reflection of what the wallpaper is internally. But again, very successful restaurant with chef Bryn Williams, who I think you might see on Saturday Kitchen every so often.
And I think finally on these venues, Harvey Nichols Champagne Bar, which was designed for Perrier Jouet champagne. Shaun?
Very difficult to design for two paymasters. I mean, Harvey Nichols had a very specific brief about this. Their bar is their sort of iconic flagship part of their fifth floor operation, and they were very worried about changing it, but they weren't prepared to pay for it particularly, so they wanted a champagne brand to do it. So we came up with a sort of a design which was based on being on brand for Perrier Jouet, which again is equally as hard. There's a lot of people involved with Pernod Ricard and Paris and the Champagne House who have an opinion, and keeping Harvey Nichols happy. But it's been a very successful 3 years, which comes to an end in September of this year, and we've been asked to redo it and to do the restaurant. So I think ultimately people look at the bottom line figure, especially the people behind Harvey Nichols. They're business people, Hong Kong Chinese businessmen, and that the bar tripled its income within a year of opening. So that was, and nothing changed apart from the design. So I think that's the power of design, really.
And something a little bit different from Shaun, sourced market in St Pancras.
St Pancras Station, yeah. We have a number of sort of like what we call our boutique rollout brands. We haven't sort of broken into the Jamie's Italians and the Byrons and Wagamamas, not because we don't want to, but I just think that maybe what we do is a little bit left field for them. But this is kind of one of our 3 mini rollouts we work for, called Sourced. I've got a bigger one called Delaziz, which we've just completed the 6th one. But this was a nice client brief. We're working on the 2nd of their outlets now, but it's meant to be a cafe deli sort of supermarket. People will purchase food before they get on the train to go home, have a sandwich, have a beer. And it was obviously, being in the new St Pancras Station was very exciting for us. And we created a brand off the back of it. So we use all the same criteria, but we kind of, depending on where it's going to go, we turn it on its head a little bit and change things around and keep it updated so it doesn't become stilted and stagnant.
Moving on, and why we're here really, this is the story of Pitfield, the shop that Shaun built. It's a strange idea to suddenly become a retailer in one of the worst recessions we've ever seen, but Shaun thought it was a good idea. Here's Pitfield. It's opened in December. Lifestyle design and furniture shop in the heart of East London's creative district, Shoreditch. So why, Shaun?
Well, good point, really. I think we've been producing stuff for clients for years, and then about 10 years ago I had an idea of doing this high-end rental property in Norfolk called Cliff Barnes, which we're actually just entering our 10th year and 9th year. And we produce a lot of product for that as well, and fabrics and eclectic mixes put into domestic environments or residential environments. And then we did a second one called Carrington House that opened 3 years ago, which is a dynasty-inspired house, again sleeping 20 people. And everyone seemed to inquire about the wallpapers, where do they come from, the furniture, can I buy that chair, where do you get that lamp from? So about sort of 3 years ago, I thought it would be a really good idea to set a shop up, and then the recession kind of hit in, and it seemed a really stupid thing to do. But my offices are on the first floor of this building, and I just thought, there's a space on the ground floor. If I can get a change of use for it, it would be fantastic. It's 4,000 square feet. It was an office with grey carpet and suspended ceilings and strip lights at the time. And 3 years later, here we are. I did it. I kept sitting on it. I signed the lease thinking I'll lose it otherwise. I think I waited for 6 months before I did anything with it. And then I thought, oh, sod it, let's just do it. So we're there now, and luckily it's going all right. We've only been open a month, but touch wood, it's doing well.
I think you can see from Shaun's early visuals that it's not just about the ground floor, it's about the Shaun Clarkson department store, isn't it?
Well, a little bit, yes. We've got our eye on the top floor. The people have just moved out of there now as well, so we've got an idea to extend the brand upstairs as well. But everyone thinks I'm mad because we've just got over doing the shop, but we'll see.
Just to skip back, in its original state, the shop, which was empty for 3 years?
7 years.
7 years.
The space was empty for 7 years.
And Hackney Council finally granted permission for change of use, despite the fact that it had been empty for so long, because of employment density, I think was their problem. Shaun took the shop over in this state, and it was pretty rough, but it did have this rather wonderful Ben Eine graffiti on the shutters outside. There's a story here, isn't there, Shaun?
Yes, weirdly. I mean, we had to have new shutters put on, open link shutters to show the windows at night, and I told the shutter people to keep the shutters, asked them if they'd sort of make some stands for them, and I think they're ready to go, and I'm hopefully putting them into Bonhams in some auction at the moment. So there's been a lot of interest because this guy's been quite collectible. So when they found out, they were a bit pissed off they hadn't just taken them, I think.
So moving on, you can see from the early plans of the shop that Shaun was looking at it as an interior designer rather than a retailer, because the plans all came into sort of how it would look, what would go where. Is that true?
Yeah, I think we had this idea of it being across the 2 floors possibly, and integrating the interior design business, maybe having people designing downstairs. But we kind of ran out of space downstairs. I think that we've got a cafe in there, which is takes up quite a lot of space, but also is a good way of getting people in through the door, and also creates a good regular revenue. It's fairly consistent, and we also wanted this gallery space. So as you can see here, we've actually included design offices in our original design. It's now an open plan space, but the way it's kind of done in a sort of a rough and ready. It's concrete floors, and we've stripped the ceiling out and left the raw paintwork, and we've run sort of like electrical trays, and the whole shop can change. We can move the vignettes around, we can lay new rugs, we can build temporary walls, and I can change the whole look of it literally with lighting and flats and wallpapers. And it's kind of what we do with spaces anyway. So we've got this detritus with this sort of like rather beautiful little vignette sitting amongst this sort of like rough and ready decaying interior. Much of the landlord's horror, I think he thought I was going to make it into a lovely, clean, shiny space.
So products in the shop: furniture, rugs, wallpaper, lighting, reinvented vintage furniture and lighting, ceramics, glass, curiosities and unique gifts. There's also a cafe and deli, which is doing very well, I believe, and an exhibition space. Again, a bit more on the outside here before we dive in. Shaun, tell us about the windows of the shop.
Well, what we did was we needed to create a sort of a window to the world in there. I mean, and this building, having had the shutters that you saw in the previous picture, they'd been closed for sort of 5.5, 6 years, hadn't moved, and I think it was quite amazing when we opened that up. The street changed. It's such a big block on Pitfield Street. The whole street changed its character, and suddenly we got these beautiful things sort of set in an environment, and people are like blown away. It's quite amazing standing outside for 15 minutes because people didn't know it was there. We literally like put it in 1 week, and it's like, wow, where did that come from? We knocked the central window out, which was originally there to create a doorway, and created a lobby. We also wanted to sort of have an area where people could drink coffee and smoke, so especially Andy. And so we created a sort of little lobby outside, as you can see there. And it's worked very well. I mean, I think it's always a little bit scary when you do these things. You do it all on paper. And when you're the designer and the client, I can see how my clients feel sometimes when you show them something. They go, what? And but it's worked very well. It feels like a fantastic space, and the street feels the better for it as well.
So looking inside the shop, you can see a little bit more about what Shaun's doing and what he's selling. Do you want to talk us through some of these, maybe the layout of the shop and how it changes and evolves?
Yeah, I think you can see on the left there that we've got these sort of flats that can be hung in any position and create walls or corners, or we can take them out and have them completely as one big open space. And we're kind of experimenting at the moment, but we do change the window regularly. We change it, I think, once every week or 2 weeks. And it's almost like having a new toy to play with, sort of moving stuff around constantly. So people do walk in and they go, oh, that's different. Or some girl came in the other day and said, I can't wait for your new window. And it's really nice that people are sort of showing an interest, but it means the space is flexible. We also are going to be running events from there, so it means that like during Fashion Week we could have a very big space we could let out. And we have been having sort of like parties there, small parties, which has been great, because it's like being in someone else's home, but you've got a sort of catering facility there as well.
What have we got here?
Well, this is typically one of our little room vignettes. We've got sort of like one of our sofas, which we've designed, which is in a knitted fabric. It looks great. It looks like a great big knitted Chesterfield. A vintage table, which a mix of sort of this is our thing, a mix of things. So we've got sort of new, reinvented, and vintage. One of our rugs that we get made in India. And again, these are samples, so things get made to size and colour specifications. So if you come in London especially, people have restricted space and they go, it's great, but it doesn't quite fit in my room. We can order you one, have it delivered within 6 weeks to your home. This is, on the right, is a sort of 60s chair we've had reupholstered in this vibrant orange leather, which, again, I think we've sold them now. And it's one of our wallpapers in the background. Which I think we'll come to later. Some vintage vases. We're also selling candles. We're moving now into accessories. We've just been to Maison Objet and we're doing bags and wallets, and we have a florist who comes in who does flowers for us. So it truly is like a lifestyle store. You can come in there, get a cup of coffee, get a present for your friend, get flowers for your home, and get a rug and a piece of furniture if you've got the money.
You've run a design company for many years, Shaun, and you employ, many staff. When it came to the shop, was that actually recruiting people to work in a retail space? Was that difficult for you?
Quite difficult. I think I've done it with a partner, the shop, because I just don't have the time to do the day-to-day running, and I've left them to sort of recruit. We were very lucky, got a good store manager quickly, someone who was very into what we did, and we now have 2 staff in the shop. The cafe is being run with a separate business partner who we own the business together, but he's a cafe operator. So I've had a pub before. I had a pub for 3.5 years, and I know the headache of running a catering outlet. So I've left it to him, which works really well as well. So he runs the day-to-day operation there. So my bit is really sort of like the buying, the fluffing, the styling, the colour pitching, and the bits I like doing. But I'm very happy to leave things to other people to run, the nitty-gritty.
Bit more of the shop here. Do you want to talk us through some of the items here, Shaun?
Yeah, again,
what's in that big cupboard?
In the big cupboard? Well, that's our sort of, we've got soaps and perfumes, and we've got some vintage sort of like bottles, and then we've got a range of candles. We're working on our own ranges at the moment, where the idea is that everything should be branded Pitfield ultimately, mixed in with other suppliers as well, but at the moment we've got Jonathan Adler candles and somebody else I think as well, but it's the smelly area.
Another shot of the window there. Very nice pink vase, pink lamp there, Shaun. Is that vintage with a new shade?
Yes, that's one of our reinvented. That was a Californian lamp that I bought and shipped over with a load of other stuff, and we've had a new shade made for it.
And more. That's
our gold leather chair, which is an acquired taste, definitely. And that's a vintage table and another reinvented lamp, our wallpaper. Now some of our flowers, and we've got this sort of like show space which changes regularly in the middle of the shop as you come in, and I think that probably changes about once a week. Oh, this is our sort of shelving idea. A lot of half cut up tables paint and then stuck to the wall, which we thought was very clever actually, but it's proving not to be as practical as we hoped, because you can't get much stuff on it. Looks nice.
So let's talk a little bit more now about products and the collections that you're beginning to produce. Should say that when Shaun designs venues, bars and restaurants and things, generally you're using bespoke furniture that you've designed and have manufactured.
Yeah, generally that's what we do, yeah.
So I suppose to take this on to your own collections is really a natural progression.
I think the difficulty is you're producing product to sell rather than pre-selling, which is what we do. If I sell a wallpaper to to a client, they'll buy what they need for their restaurant and a few extra rolls, and you say, well, it's going to be like X amount per roll. They go, okay, but it's worth it because it's great. If you start producing stuff and selling it on, it's a different kettle of fish, really, because it's like you're designing something and saying, I hope someone else likes it, rather than designing something that you know the client's approved and there's a guaranteed order, if you like, there.
So, first collections slide, Shaun.
Yeah, well, this is our first. This is all changing actually shortly, but it's our first collection. We're looking every 3 to 4 months to change everything in the shop pretty much, and then the stuff we haven't sold will be available online. But I think we want everything to look very different. And this is one of our vintage chairs, which is we've reupholstered. This is one of our wallpapers, which comes in 6 different colourways.
And is that printed in the UK?
It's all made in the UK, yes. I wanted to do made in London, but it's very difficult to make everything in London. That was going to be our strap line. But in the UK, yeah. Apart from the rugs, actually.
Okay.
By English people in India.
And in terms of inspiration for these products, is it stuff in your head? Are you out and about looking at other things?
We're calling them collections because I think we're looking at things that can intermix, so that we pitch a colour story, a bit like fashion, and we do sort of mood boards, and we look at sort of fabrics and motifs and images and mix it up a little bit. But yes, it's very much about it's very like fashion, really. We're kind of pitching it, and it's quite interesting looking at fashion, what's in fashion on the catwalk, and then taking essence of that and trying to put it into interiors. I mean, the turnover of interior stuff is so huge now. I mean, it used to be that I think people wouldn't change their furniture that regularly. I think my parents only had 1 3-piece suite in 60 years. They used to recover it when it needed it. But I think now we're in a very sort of different. People will strip out their interiors, redecorate, and buy new furniture, and think nothing of it, fairly regularly. So I think we're thinking about it as fashion, in many ways. But I think we're using classic shapes with different fabrics. We're using quite classic motifs, and tweaking the colour. They're sort of like what we're calling the Pitfield staples, which will be the things you can always get. You can always get a fantastic wingback chair in 6 different colourways.
Next slide is a very geometric wallpaper.
This is our twist cross wallpaper, which comes in 6 different colours as well. So someone's forgotten to wallpaper underneath the cabinet, I've just noticed.
And for things like wallpaper, will you sell online as well?
Yes. I mean, digital printing has meant you can turn things around really quickly. So we don't hold a lot of stock. And the idea is that, if you order it, a wallpaper, you will get it delivered to you within a week in the post.
So you wouldn't see the wallpaper?
There's sample wallpapers in the showroom and on the website.
But in terms of orders, they go to the manufacturer and then they go straight
you'd be sent a swatch. So you'd be sent to swatch the wallpaper.
Brilliant.
So you can look at the scale of it. And I think what's interesting in wallpapers is that they're quite mean scales sometimes. We try to print things bigger and make them more bold. And this is our other ICAT wallpaper, which comes in, I think, 5 different colourways. But again, this is bold. It's sort of like the print is the width of the pattern's the print of the wallpaper, the width of the wallpaper. So it's quite a sort of big scale.
And the sofa is one that
It's one of our designs, yeah.
Is it proving popular?
And the blankie? Yes, that's been good actually. Yeah.
Okay. And do you think, in the short time that you have had the shop open, do you think you're learning more about the kind of things that people want to buy from you? Are you tailoring your stock, or is it just, I know people are going to love this?
Well, I think we just went a bit gung-ho in and bought a lot of stock for Christmas because we opened on the 14th of December. So we were literally rushing to get the Christmas trade. And it was all a bit of a scramble to get it open, but I think we bought well. It was really encouraging because we went to, we sold virtually everything. Where sort of literally what's left is dwindling fast. So I think we bought really well. I think it'd be very tempting now to go and buy similar things and restock the shop the same. And I'm not saying we won't do some of the stuff, but I think it'd be really nice to have new product and have a new look. I mean, we're just pitching the new season for the spring. Just been to Maison Objet, and I'm here as well looking for new product. And we kind of have formulated a look for the store, and then you buy in product that works really well with that. There's also, you've got seasons, you know, we're looking at garden and you know, outdoor furniture and sort of outdoor accessories and much more gardening for this coming season. So it's fun, it's really good fun.
Exhibitions. You also have space in the shop to do things with other people. Currently showing Klaus Hapanini with a bedroom installation, and that has rolled on to him designing wallpaper, or them, or she, him. Wallpaper that's now available as part of the Pitfield brand.
Well, we had this idea of really trying to encourage and showcase new talent, and we had the opportunity to use for Klaus to do an installation. He works for Itala. I mean, he's a textile designer by trade, but he does fantastic ranges of china for Itala. We got involved with them, and they were very keen to get involved with us as well. And so they've actually sort of supplied all the china for the cafe, so you can eat off Klaus Hapanini plate, drink out of one of his mugs. You can buy it in the shop, and also now he's designed this wallpaper specially for us, and that will be available from Pitfield after the exhibition's gone. So they put an installation in which we're really happy with, showcasing some of their textiles and product. He also does these amazing cushions, and again they've sold really well, and I think that's a great way to work. We've also set up a sort of relationship with an art gallery where we want to work with artists producing product, so slightly left field as well. So we sort of say, look, we can produce a carpet, we'll help you apply something to produce a rug rather than a painting, you know, so it's something you can buy, and then the product will be available through us.
There's a bit more textile there from Klaus. Finally, Shaun, the cafe, which has been really busy since you opened and seems to create something, seems to add something to the shop. Where did you get the idea that a cafe was what you needed?
Well, I think it was looking at other operations. I think we had this sort of idea of being a lifestyle store, which sounds really naff, I know, but there was an element of wanting there to be more than just product to buy. And we went to places like Mercy and Colette in Paris. Mercy, I think, is a great example. And also sort of ABC Carpets when I was out there in New York. They've got a great big store, and they opened a restaurant which was affiliated to it. And it just seemed like the right thing to do. We had a lot of space. It's a great way to get people in. And also it's a steady income from it, which is good. And it's going well. I mean, we've been a bit blown away by the cafe, really. We kind of opened it, and then the first weekend we had queues out the door, and it was a bit like, where did this come from? And apart from having a lot of very fed up staff who wanted to walk out after a week because they'd worked so hard, it's been great. It's been great. So it's all settling down nicely. We've had a bit of a breathing space in January to sort of sort the operations out, but it's good.
So, Pitfield, London, 31 to 35, Pitfield Street, London N1. Shaun has a little booth here at G30, just down there, and the website is in its infancy, but there's some basic information on there, isn't there?
Well, yes, there's basically some pictures of the shop and how to get hold of us and where we are. It is a bit of a nightmare, this, because in a whole other world, sort of commerce websites, and even though I've been researching them for 9 months, I seem none the wiser, although we have decided on somebody. So by the end of February, we should have a full commerce website up and running.
And that wraps it up. Do we have a microphone for questions? Okay. Does anyone have a question for Shaun? Lady there?
How much is the wallpaper a roll?
How much is it? It varies. It starts from about £80 up to about £160 a roll.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
How
Oh, sorry.
how
Go on.
are you all right? How did you get into interior design? You know, what was your background?
Well, that's the weird thing is actually I trained to be a fine arts painter and sculptor, and I went to Kingston University to do that. And accidentally, I didn't train formally. I still don't have. I mean, I can use Photoshop, but I used to do lovely drawings in the olden days, which is what I went to at college. And I have a team of people who do all the technical stuff now, 3D Max. And so really, it was Oliver Payton, who we saw earlier, he saw an exhibition I had down in on the South Bank in about 1990. And he said to me, do you fancy coming and doing some work for me? I'm just importing Absolute Vodka to the UK. So I actually cut my teeth doing installations in bars for Absolute Vodka. So I used to do a bit of art for them. And I have a piece of art in the Absolute Art collection. And then he got a nightclub one day and he said, do the nightclub, which was disastrous because I didn't use any FR-rated materials and I didn't know anything. So the whole thing got shut down on the first night. And we had to rip it all out, put in a skip. Luckily, he was really forgiving, actually, and said, okay, let's do it again. But it was a steep learning curve.
I just wondered if you think the shop will act as a good marketing tool for the design business as well. Have you generated any more business for your practice out of the...
It's early days, but that's part of what we want to do. One of the problems is being an interior designer with your name above the door. It's fine when it's just you, but then you end up having 12 staff, and you suddenly realise that actually it's still all about you. So Pitfield is kind of... We've had a move towards doing more residential work anyway, and in the current climate, a lot of my bar operators haven't got the money they used to. So we've quite consciously moved the business slightly sideways, and I see that the residential work comes in under Pitfield, and Pitfield becomes a stronger brand. And I think we still do what we do very well with our key clients upstairs in Shaun Clarkson ID, but I think we need to shift the dynamic. So I think it will be. It's great. I mean, it's early days, but a few clients have been to see me, and we've had meetings in the cafe, and they're like sort of blown away. And of course, then they end up saying, "Well, I really like that, and that rug's really nice. And what about that for my bedroom? My son would like that in his bedroom." And so it actually does work very well.
Clever shift.
Any more? I think that's it then. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Shaun.
Thank you.